The pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 3 podcast.
We welcome you back. Second half of the program is live, and our next guest we are really fired up about. He is Chase Rice, who is a major star in country music. He had a number one hit last year. He's got a new, kind of a two-parter, a new album coming out. Part of it came out a couple of months ago. The rest of it's coming out shortly. He was touring with Garth Brooks until the world seemed to shut down, and we're delighted to welcome Chase Rice to our program. Chase, thank you very much for making the time. Good afternoon.
Paul, thanks for having me on, dude. I've listened to your show for a long time, so this is really cool.
Well, I don't even know where to start because, I mean, you have so many, before we even get to country music, you were a really good football player at North Carolina, thought about the NFL, then you worked in NASCAR. Let's start in college football. So how good were you? Yeah,
man, my junior year was it ended up, I guess, being my worst year, but it was supposed to be my best year. That was when I was really coming on, and I finally figured out, how to be the best player I could be. And Chuck Pagano was my D coordinator there at Carolina. Butch Davis was our head coach. So we were just surrounded by great things going. And then the very first game against James Madison, I popped my ankle and I was never the same. So that pretty much ended my career there. And that year was actually when I learned to play guitar. So it isn't all bad. It was brutal at the time. A college kid, you probably played your last game. It's one of the worst experiences of your life at the time, but it's swung around. All my buddies are retired from the NFL, and here I am kind of just getting started.
You spent some time in NASCAR, too, a fairly successful time. What was that experience like?
That was crazy. It was perfect for me because, my dream of playing in the NFL was shattered. But I didn't have to just go get a regular job. I was able to go work at Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, the best race team in the world, and I was surrounded by great people. I still had a team around me, so it was a perfect job right out of college. But the whole time I was kind of miserable because I just wanted to move to Nashville and write songs. And it wasn't even to be an artist. I just wanted to do music because it was so new to me. I'd only played guitar a few years, but it was all coming pretty easy to me for some reason, and I just had that itch. I wanted to go. I was young. I wanted to go chase a dream. And luckily for me, I ended up getting in a fight with one of my pit crew buddies, and they suspended me for 2 weeks because of that fight. So I moved to Nashville, and I ended up going to Nashville, and that was the first time I'd ever been. And I my buddy Brian from the time I was a little kid was the Florida part of Florida Georgia Line, Brian Kelly. So I stayed in their house and we just started writing songs together. And that's kind of how that happened. And a year and a half later, we wrote Cruise.
And that obviously that took off and became a mega hit. And at that point, you start doing, I would think, what a lot of songwriters do. You start thinking, okay, if I could write a number one hit for that group, what about me?
Exactly. I mean, I lived with the guys for so long, even through their success. I mean, we were just all living in the same house. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm seeing these guys get rich, and I wasn't doing bad with the money coming in from Cruise, but I was like, man, if I could keep that for myself, this would be a whole different lifestyle. So that's why I gave it a shot. I just put an album out and went from there. And the way I did it was probably not the way most people should do it. And like I said, I just threw a bunch of songs out there to see what happened and started touring. And that all led to, that was probably around 2012, 13, 14. And that all just basically led to me, within the last year and a half, finally figuring out who I am as a person, as an artist, and singing songs that really matter to me. And you'll hear a lot of that in the album part 1, and hopefully you'll hear more of that in the album part 2, which is coming out May 15th.
When you write and produce a song that finally takes off, I mean, and people, it's not easy. I mean, it doesn't happen to everyone, and even great artists, it never happens to. What is that like? Is it relief or more pressure to keep doing it?
Yeah, in the beginning for me, it was so easy. It was Cruise, Ready, Set, Roll, and then Gonna Want It Tonight were my first 2 songs. And it was. I remember saying to somebody, I was like, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. The funny thing is, I just said that to Garth when we were touring, when we had that show together in Detroit. And I told him that. He started laughing because he knew what was coming. And what was coming was the truth, the real life finally set in. And it was like, oh, my label fell apart. just different things happen. I probably wasn't writing as good of songs, and it just wasn't the success that I really thought I was going to have when I started, because I was blowing up, and then it all kind of went away a little bit. And then to come back from where I was, and that's the greatest thing. I'd say the greatest things that have ever happened to me are the failures that I've had in my life, which is, I think, any athlete or anybody that's had success can relate to, because those failures led to Eyes on You, which was my very first number one song last year, and that's all led to the album Part 1, Part 2, and Lonely If You Are, which is it's all led me to really search myself and finally put out music that I believe will stand the test of time.
Chase, I once asked Randy Owen, who was the lead on the legendary group Alabama. I said, when you're writing a song, what are you normally thinking about? And I can't reveal the word he used, but because he said most songs are about the same thing. And you know what I'm talking about. This is a PG program. Is that true?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I know in country music, almost every song is either about a woman or about alcohol. And a lot of them are about both in one. And it's for me, I know where I am in my life. I'm a single guy. I love where I am in life. So I'm going to sing about the ups and the downs of that. And that has a lot to do with women, with alcohol, and the fun. But that's the thing. That's the greatest part about where I am now, is it's not the depressing stuff that I was singing about for a while. I'm having fun, I'm having a blast. I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm making friends even still during this whole crazy time right now. We got a crew of about 6 guys that are just all rolling together. And I'm just in such a blessed place in my life, and I'm enjoying the ride. And that's the key for me when I write these songs. It's like, I'm going to tell the truth. I mean, you got a song like, Eyes on You, Lonely If You Are. They're all about the same girl, and she knows it. So she can't turn her radio on anymore, but I'm okay with that.
Shay, so let's talk about the concept with this album 1, album 2. The first part came out a couple of months ago. It's doing really well. The second part coming out shortly. How do you do something? What's the thought behind something quite like that?
Yeah, it's just, for me, the way people listen to music these days is way different. I mean, I'm looking at my CD player in my truck right now, and that's how I listen to music. I'd get the CD, I'd be pumped about it, I'd put it in, and I'd listen to every song. And then you pick your 3 or 4 favorites, but you listen to it so much that you end up learning the whole album. And that's not a thing anymore. People don't do that as much these days. So I was like, I want each song to really have a chance here. Even if it's not a single at radio, I want people to be able to dive in and listen to these songs and give each song its moment. So that's why I'm splitting it up, to give people more music, I guess less music more often, so they can learn the songs. And this is going to be crazy because when we started this quarantine, it was Lonely If You Are was out on the album Part 1, and it had just released. And now here we are. It was 40 at the charts, and now it's at 25. By the time we get back to touring, it could be the number 1 song in the country. You never know. We could be on another song. And then the album Part 2 will be out May 15th, and that'll be a whole new group of songs. So by the time we get back, we're going to have a whole different concert. It's going to be crazy.
Talking to Chase Rice, and before everything was shut down, and we don't know when concerts are coming back, but I think you opened for Garth Brooks in front of 70,000 people in Detroit. Yep. I've seen Garth Brooks, and I mean I don't need to describe his legendary status in music. Describe that experience being around him and opening for him.
Yeah, it was very surreal, very dream come true. At the same time, I was trying to take it all in and enjoy the moment. I wasn't trying to, this is crazy, I'm opening for Garth Brooks. I tried to, talk to myself. We earned that. Me, the band, the crew, we earned that moment. Because when Garth makes that call, he's the one that's making it. And it was very, very special, man. It was, I grew up watching Garth, from the time I was a little kid. He's the first music I ever remembered. So to not only do the show with him in front of 70,000 people, that was the last show we did, by the way. That's the last time I was on a stage. So to do that show in front of 70,000 and I know it's for the guy that got me into country music, and that was fun. But the most special part that I had was actually getting to talk to him, and we've talked a lot, quite a bit. But it was a moment where it wasn't supposed to happen. Him and I were just standing on stage together, and we just started talking. Had nothing to do with music, and had everything to do with life. And man, he's the first thing he said to me. I was like, "How do you deal with this?" Because it seems like now all of a sudden everybody just wants to get a piece of you in some way. And he said, "Man, you got to first of all understand that you do music for a living, and you do country music for a living. There's no bigger blessing on the planet to be able to do that to make your money." And then he asked me, he said, "How's your relationship with God?" And I was like, "Those are the two things you say to me. That shows how well, his head is on his shoulders. He's just such a passionate guy. He's such a great guy. He's a family guy, and he's one of the best musicians of all time. So to be able to learn from him, not just about music, but about real life stuff too, one of the most special moments in my life."
That is amazing. Before you go, Chase, this is an amazing time in this world, especially in this country that we're in. I know you and many of your colleagues are working hard to help people that are not quite as fortunate. Describe what that experience has been like, and take us through the process.
Yeah, it's been crazy because there isn't a code for this. There isn't a standard. For me, I've chosen not to fire any of my band and crew. We built a team together. We built a family, and I think I get a lot of that from football. It's like when it all hits the fan, you don't just turn especially when you're the boss, you don't turn your back on your people. And I'm blessed to be able to do that. A lot of people aren't. But it's not going to last forever for me. I mean, at some point, it's scary times because at some point the money's going to run out, and we're going to have to figure something else out if they don't let us get back to tour. But at the same time, I mean, financially it's crushing. But I'll say this, and this is a God thing. I mean, I've laughed more, I've smiled more, and I've just found more joy in the last month than I have in a long, long time. And that's because this whole thing has forced me to slow down. It's forced me not to travel at all. And all I do is travel. Even when I'm not touring, I'm like, oh, I'll go to Montana and fly fish. Why not? It's forced me to stay at home. And I've got, like I said, I got a group of about 6 guys that we've just kind of hung together, and a couple of their kids and stuff. But we've stayed a real tight-knit group, and I'll have friends for life because of this thing. So I think that's the biggest thing is not looking for brighter days ahead. People keep saying looking for brighter days ahead, that 2020 is the worst year ever. I disagree. I think this is a time that we can all come together and have dinner at the dinner table again, watch TV together, laugh, play cards, sit around the fire with no TV on. That's been the biggest blessing in my life. And I'm looking forward to touring again, but I'm going to enjoy right where we are.
What a fantastic conversation with Chase Rice. Chase, thank you for the time. You've inspired a lot of us just listening to those words, and especially with your music. Be well, and I hope you'll come back sometime.
All right, Paul, it was great talking to you. Like I said, I've listened to you for a long time, so it was great talking, and hopefully we can do it face-to-face at some point soon.
I would love to. All the best. Thank you, Chase.
All right, Paul, thank you. Bye.
Chase Rice, huge star in Nashville, and what an amazing message he delivered. What an amazing an hour and a half here with Dr. Sag and Chase. We will take a break. We started earlier with an athletic director from Northwestern. We are heading to a break, and we'll finally get back to your phone calls.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Well, Chase Rice there. Really, I've interviewed a number of country stars and have gotten to know a few. I was really struck by him. He had just an uplifting message, and you just want to go, yeah, man, I am with you all the way. That was fun. And Dr. Sag, man, that first couple of minutes when he was describing COVID-19, having it, and then not only dealing with the virulent nature of it, but interpreting everything that was going on in his body as an infectious disease specialist was one of the most fascinating things I think I've heard. And I realize this was on our program here, but I was breathless listening to that. That was really amazing. Let's get back to the calls at 855-242-7285, if I can get my board working again. And Augie is up next. Hey, Augie.
Hey, Paul, that was a really good interview you had there with Chase Rice.
Thank you.
Your show is like a college curriculum rolled into one. You have politics, science, technology, biology, economics. You even go into management and administration. And even today I learned something new. I learned that the Rapture was coming from a fellow LSU fan there.
Absolutely.
Did you know The Rapture was a song by Blondie from her, I think, Auto-American album in 1980?
No. Speaking of New Orleans, I was down there for the Final Four in, what year was it, 2012, when Kentucky won?
I don't, when it comes to basketball, zone out.
It was. Kentucky won, and there was an outdoor concert. I think the Black Keys were the main act, and Buffett may have been later. And I saw Blondie, and you ever been to one of those concerts, Augie, when you go, what happened?
Well, I tell you, when I was a freshman, I guess it was a junior at LSU, there was this girls band, the Go-Go's from out west, and they sounded great on the album, but in concert live, they were terrible. So it just goes to show you what you see on TV and what you hear on the radio.
When she was singing "Call Me," I said, I don't think I will.
But I gotta love Blondie. She's great, and for her age, she looks pretty good today.
Well, that was the scary part. I think we were similar ages.
But yesterday you had a call from Jeff, the Cicero of Columbus.
Yes.
The man who can compress the most words into the smallest idea. The man with Van Gogh's ear for logic. He consistently sets low expectations and fails to meet them. Not only are his calls dull themselves, but he causes dullness in others. I think he has delusions of adequacy. And yesterday, when he asked you if you had known anybody who had the virus, you could tell he was expecting you to answer no. When you answered yes, you blew his entire thesis. So he needs to get a refund from Antonelli College.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a number of people, including the guest we had today, and his son. But that's beside the point. He acted like that was, with what 600,000 people in this country with who have been diagnosed. I mean, that was not really a difficult thing to answer.
Absolutely not. I mean, Jeff is the reason that the gene pool needs a lifeguard. I mean, he comes on board with some crazy stuff. And if I had $1 for everything Jeff said that was interesting, I'd be broke.
Yeah.
But I've got to say that he does give pause for the rest of us when we consider he is developing this cozy relationship with Jim. It's become an internal fan club. He says, I gush over you. He's gushing over Jim. And again, I'm not trying to bring Jim in.
Yeah, when in doubt, this is just sports broadcasting poker. I know this sounds arrogant, but I think the host, three cards of the host will usually trump a caller.
Well, I think half an idea from the host would trump anything Jeff had to say any day of the week. Anyway, it was a great week again, Paul. I'm gushing up to you, and
thank you.
I'll send you my address for the book. Take care. Bye-bye.
You got it. Thank you very, very much. Kathy is in Florida. Hello, Kathy.
Hi there. How are you, Paul? Nice to talk
I am well.
to you. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet. Great to have you on.
Thank you. I always listen to your show because my fiance listens to you all the time. So
that is smart.
I'm most interested when you're talking about the Kentucky Wildcats because that's my team. But what I wanted to talk to you about was I'm a realtor in Kentucky, and I'm a realtor also in Florida. The lady that was on a while ago was saying how her market was down, and I have been so blessed this year. I mean, I felt like Chase Rice said it. 2020 is going to be a great year. I'm having showings on my listings every day. I've sold a lot of properties in Kentucky as well as Florida. In Florida, we are practicing safe CDC guidelines when we show properties because we're in essential activity. And as of December of 2019, the statistics showed that 640 people a day are moving into Florida. I'm trying to get a lot of my Kentucky friends to move to Florida. And since I've already been a realtor in Kentucky for 34 years, I just keep working on that market because a lot of us are getting older and it's nice to be warm instead of cold all the time. So it's a good market. It's a good time to take continuing education classes and, bone up on all your social media skills because a lot of people are in the social media. A lot of buyers that I get are through social media. So older people have to learn all this stuff. I started out with a book before computers. So it's a continuation of learning constantly, but I just feel like the real estate market is good. You just have to decide if you have to be quarantined, is this the house you want to be quarantined in?
That's a great question, and I will speak as someone who travels a reasonable amount. In the fall, I was gone 5 nights a week. I've been in rooms in my house I've never seen before. And by the way, they're still empty too. It's not like
Really?
It's not that big a house, but we have. But the amount of furniture here is I'm noticing being in the upstairs part of the house more lately is pretty sparse.
Oh gosh! Well, maybe you just need to downsize.
Well, my wife's not watching the show today.
The man that answered the phone when I first called in, he said he just made an offer on a house in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So people have to live somewhere. This is definitely an essential activity. You just have to wear a mask and gloves and tell people back off, get away 6 feet, and roll on with it. Because,
and I think your argument is a really good one. Not that anybody wants to go through this again, but you better like your house.
Yes. And if you don't, there's another one out there for you, and the interest rates are great, and it's a great time to buy.
That is a good point.
So it is a good market, yes.
Well, I am really glad to hear that. I was concerned about our friend from Alabama. We'll take a break. We have had just quite a run of guests here. We will try to make up for it with calls after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
You're not worth a kill.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us here on a very busy Friday afternoon. Swami is up next.
Hey, big guy. Hey, Paul. Hey, the last thing I want to do on Casual Friday is talk about this damn virus, But, you had your guest on there, and, we know it's a real thing. I'm so glad he got over it and everything. But, he's talking about limited fans and all this stuff to the things. But, really, how many people you think go to Walmart in our country every day? Maybe, conservative, we got 320 million, maybe 30, 40 million every day. I mean, what is it? What do you draw the line on that? I mean, if he asked me, Swami, if I was in his office, you've caught the disease, Swami. Could you tell me who you've been in contact with? Well, there's thousands of people I work with, and maybe a couple thousand more there when I go to Walmart, and hundreds of thousands, hundreds of people there at the dollar store. So, there's no containing this. But that's all I want to talk about the virus, Paul. I ain't going to say no more about it. But I just want to say one thing, Paul. If I was president, your ass would be in the studio Monday with Kubiak and Danny B. Unless you got some good excuse about, some type of ailment you got. And, Paul, you there?
I don't have any ailments. I'm in perfectly good health right now. So
well,
I'll start packing my. I'll start packing my lunch. Thanks, Swami. Mike is up next. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks.
Hey, I was listening to Augie just a minute ago. Maybe I missed something because I think I do watch the show, fairly religiously, but it seems like he's becoming like the main man now. And to start with, when he first calls, I knew he was very intelligent, but I kind of distrusted him in a way, some of the things he was saying. But the more I listened to him, the more I kind of agree with most of the damn things that he says. And anyway, the last call, I enjoyed listening to him talk about, Jeff from Columbus, his love affair with Jim from Tuscaloosa, and all the things that are going on with that. So, that was kind of amusing too. But anyway, the guy's obviously very intelligent. He has some very, very good calls.
I mean, I'm entertained. I'm entertained by him. I agree. He's got a lot of.
I like it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, like I said, I am not watching as religiously as I was before. But one caller that I haven't seen, maybe I've just missed it, is Jimmy from Chicago calling in?
I don't think we've heard from Jimmy since all this started.
Okay, well, I miss the guy. The guy's smart. He knows football. He knows his history. He comes out with facts. And so anyway, if he's listening or whatever, I realize we're not talking much football. It's mostly virus-related stuff, which is why I have to take breaks from time to time. But anyway, I hope he comes back soon, and I hope you're doing well, and I appreciate everything.
Thank you very much. Great to hear from you. Let's head to South Carolina. Cat Daddy.
Big Paul, I got a couple suggestions for the show I'd like to pass on. First of all, I think this will be the perfect time for you to have your wife come on, that she's a physician and everything. What do you think?
I'll talk to Kubiak about see if he can book her.
Well, tell Kubiak make sure she gets a nice paycheck. And one other thing I thought might make your listeners feel a little more peppy, cheer them up a little bit. Junior came in today and brought in a tape Andy Griffith had made about what it was football.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
And I thought if you played that on your show, maybe it might make some smiles on people's faces. I know if you've never heard it.
It's very funny. You're right. I'll see if I can dig that one up.
All right, Big Paul, just trying to cheer things up. But you know what? Alfonso Jr.'s boy come in there today, and he said, Cat Daddy, how would you like to be a fly on the wall at the Clinton's household? I bet they're cussing each other out every day.
I think you're making a big assumption that they actually speak to each other.
Good point. Point well taken. I hope we get back to doing this football. I'm going to keep optimistic and tell everybody out there, keep hope alive. We can beat this thing. We will beat this thing. God bless America.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Philip is up next in Atlanta. Hello, Philip.
Paul, I'm 90 years old, and I've been trying to get on your show for about 10 years. And I feel like a young man about to lose his virginity for the first time. A little awkward and a little nervous, but
you sound great.
I've done a lot of things in sports, and I got a lot to say. I hope you'll give me a little time.
Sure.
My dealing with football goes back to 1913. That's when I was involved with the first All-American at the University of Georgia named Bob McWhirter. Some of the old Georgia fans might remember it. But I've come on the show at a pretty good time because I think that doctor was the best talker you've had on in years, and then lightened up with the guitar player. And the main thing I wanted to say is that these times I'd like to see your program lighten up and get a little humor. And I have some compliments for you for the ESPN, that show last week about Down South. What was the title of the show? Football Down South.
Yeah, Saturdays in the South.
Yeah, I wish you'd show that again and announce it a little bit in advance. It was just great. Some particular the practical jokes. That's what I'd like to see your show now, is to go into some humor and some stories. I don't know if people know about it, but when the Auburn players greased the railroad tracks and the tech train had to go a half a mile sliding before they could stop. Do you remember that?
I've heard that story, yes. That is a really funny story.
and then Auburn hosing down the Georgia fans.
Yeah, I was at that game. I remember that one well.
There's a lot of great stories, and if with your permission, I'd like to say a category of the most sporting event in football. In my opinion, it never got any news, and maybe somebody would call me in and give their opinion of the most sporting. We all know what's the worst sporting was that Cumberland Tech Cumberland game with Coach Heisman ran up
222 to nothing. Yeah,
the worst. That's the paradox. Is that the name of the Sportsman Award, the Heisman Award, and he was the worst sport. Now, the story of the best sport was my little little town of McRae, Georgia, in South Georgia. During World War II, they wanted to start a football game, didn't have any uniforms, ordered some. Our first game was with Baxley. The uniforms hadn't come in. We had on bib overalls. Baxley had 3 busloads of bright, shiny uniforms with bright red helmets. They looked over and saw the crew with no helmets. They had a little huddle, and they played the whole game with no side wearing helmets. Wouldn't you think that was pretty sportsman?
That would. I'm first of all, Philip, I'm really glad that you made it on the show. We are sadly up against a break here, but call soon. I hope to talk to you. Be well. We're back after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We welcome you back. It has been a fantastic program. Dr. Michael Sag earlier, one of the leading epidemiologists in the world. We had a fantastic conversation earlier with the athletic director at Northwestern, and Chase Rice also joining us. Matt is up next in Washington, D.C.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Hey, Matt.
Long time
Thank you.
listener, first time caller.
Good afternoon.
I was just calling because I was a recent graduate of the University of Georgia, and I just wanted to, talk about everything that's going on for the students right now, because I couldn't imagine missing, my second semester senior year, or even worse, missing out on my senior football season. I was fortunate enough to go to Georgia when Kirby Smart was around, and really turned the football program around from the Mark Richt era. And it's just, I made so many memories, whether it was trying to break into Jordan-Hare Stadium 1 a.m. at night while I was drunk as all get out, or whether it's me and my friends. Yeah, that was a good one. The cops weren't too happy about that, but yeah. So I just want to say that if you know someone who's missing out on the college experience because it's such a formative period in our lives, reach out to them and talk to them, and because they're going through a lot right now. I mean, I know when I was going through my second semester senior year, it was weird because you feel like you're having the most fun in the whole world. I mean, I was blessed to go to school in Athens, Georgia, and be able to have 80 bars at my disposal and go out with friends every night and have a great time. And suddenly, the rug is just pulled out from under their feet. And I just think,
Matt, what are you? Are you a recent graduate?
Yeah, so I graduated in December. I was
what
very lucky.
Are you in pretty good shape, because it's a tough market out there for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, so luckily I'm a government contractor in D.C.,
okay.
And I was able to retain my job. But that's something I also wanted to mention is that a lot of people, they're having their internships put off, they're having their jobs put off. So if you happen to be in a position to help someone, it's just important to help them and, try and look out for people, because although there are many people who are in poor health and, who aren't necessarily doing well at times that are elderly, there are also young people that are having a tough time economically and are missing out on a very important experience in their lives. So that's just something I wanted to touch on.
No, I'm glad you said that. And I will tell you a quick story. one of my closest friend's son is I think he's a sophomore at UGA, and we went down there this year. I was there twice, but one of the times his frat was having a fundraiser, so we went out to wherever this place was. And I was just struck. I mean, I probably ran a couple of hundred people were there. There were one of their fraternity brothers had died, and they were raising money. And Matt, I must have had 100 kids come up to me and say, "This is the greatest school I've ever been." I mean, every one of them said the exact same thing you're saying. And I know every campus is fun, but UGA is in a different league right now.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where. So my sister went to UGA before me, and me and my sister were very different. And I was always kind of like, I don't want to go to UGA. I want to be different from my sister. I've been following her footsteps my entire life. About 1 month into UGA, I was convinced that I was in heaven, and I never wanted to leave. And like
it was. I have to tell you, we went out to eat somewhere downtown, and it was just an extraordinary. Just to because a lot of times I don't go out, but it was. I'm told. Well, thanks for your message. That's really important because I think we think about elderly people and others, but what young people are going through right now is unprecedented as well. Thanks for sharing that. We are back with one more hour.
Geico has the insurance industry-leading app that lets you manage your policy anytime, anywhere. Which means that Geico is always there for you. If only everyone was always there for you. Like animal control, when you're cornered in your garage by an angry possum.
Hi, me again. You guys said you would be here about an hour ago, and I think the possum is starting to get angry. Listen, I thought if I fed it, it would go away, but now it is ripping holes in the drywall and making some sort of nest. Just call me back.
Geico, always there for you with savings and the industry-leading mobile app.